Well, welcome everyone. I am Haley Ryapel, and today we are going to be running you through the best practices in website design that are going to improve your website's user experience and ultimately drive more conversions because we all want more money. So, before we get started, we're going to go ahead and send out a survey, and we want to know what platform is your website currently on. And we could only have up to 5 options. So, if you're using something different from what you see here, go ahead and throw it in the chat because we really want to know. I'm your host. I am the marketing communications specialist at TapGoods, and our presenters today are Candace Leak and Ralitsa Carter. Candace is our chief commercial officer at TapGoods, and she has founded 3 startups in diverse industries, and that actually includes our rental sector. She's been designing and optimizing websites for over 25 years. Ralitsa is our guest host. She is the co-owner of 12 Legs Marketing, and we call her Ralitsa, but she also goes by Raleigh, so you might hear me like go back and forth between that. But she has lived on 3 continents and has been working in the digital marketing space for close to 2 decades. And I'm just going to repeat that she is the co-owner of 12 Legs Marketing because I cannot remember if I said that. So today she leads a team of 15 website development and digital marketing professionals dedicated specifically to the rental industry. Okay, and we've got some poll results in. I see that some of you guys are using Wix, but most of you are on WordPress. And that is one of our most common website builders, so that doesn't really surprise us. So remember to send in your questions as you listen, and we will answer them at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Candace.
Hey, everybody. I'm glad to hear that a lot of you are using WordPress, and that just makes a nice segue for me to mention to everyone that if you're using TapGoods as software or thinking about it, we do have a WordPress plugin now. So we may talk a bit about that as well. But most of this today is going to be focused on information that can help with any website, best practices to follow, navigation, mobile navigation, core web vitals, and how to track and analyze how well you're doing. You can sit back and relax and just pay attention and put questions in the chat and not worry about taking notes, because after the meeting, I am going to send out an email that has a link to these slides as well as links to any resource that Raleigh or I mention. Okay, so let's get started and first talk about why website design matters. So you probably already know, but I just like to break it down pretty simply. So your website is your digital storefront. It's the first look that people get of who you are. So it's extremely important for branding. The look and feel of your website is going to set your business up for what people expect, whether maybe you're the best price alternative in your marketplace, or maybe you're the most high end. Your website can convey that, your branding. It's also where people are going to go to take action. So when somebody comes to your website, you want them to do something, whether that's book a rental, browse products, contact you. How well it's designed will directly impact whether or not they take that action, and that will directly impact your revenue. So we want to talk today about that design and how to get them to take the desired action. So before I get started, I want to talk about to how to do things right. I want to talk about the most common mistakes that I see on websites. So the first is slow page speed. And an example of that is, I'm sure this has happened to everybody. I feel like it happens to me on a daily basis. I do a search on Google or Bing or whatever search engine you use, and I see something that looks, oh, that looks like it's going to answer my question, or it's what I'm looking for. I click on it. The page takes forever to load. And if it doesn't load in a few seconds, I hit the back button and go find somebody else. And that's bad for 2 reasons. One, you just lost potential revenue. But 2, that's an indicator back to Google that this was a bad experience. It gives you a high bounce rate, and then that affects your search engine optimization and how much traffic they send you in the future. The next is poor navigation. So let's say they get to your site and it loads quickly, and maybe they typed in a search for chair rentals. So they get to the site And on your website, it's all about you and why you started the business and, the different venues that you serve. But nowhere on there is a link to chair rentals. Again, they can't get exactly what they want and take the action you want them to take, which is either to book or contact you about reserving those chairs or whatever it is that you rent. So it's real important to have the navigation and get people directly where they want to go. And then that also leads to the last one, which is a frustrating user experience. And that can be poor navigation. It can also be things like it takes you have to go through too many different pages to get all the way to the action that you want to take. Maybe there's a lot of forms, you're asking for a lot of information. Anything, all of this can lead to an experience where people just hit that back button and go find somebody else. So we're focusing on things that help you avoid these mistakes today. I'm going to talk about best practices, and then about halfway through, I'm gonna hand it over to Raleigh. Haley mentioned she's from 12 Legs Marketing, and she's going to get really into the nitty gritty of how to do these things. So I'm going to talk about what you should do, and then she's going to talk about how to do them. Okay, so first up, we've got best practices for navigation. So we want to keep it simple. You don't want more than about 5 to 7 main menu items because have you ever gone to a page that has, 47 choices and then you just get analysis paralysis and you don't know where to go, so you just hit the back button. So you want to keep it simple. On your labels, we want to keep it descriptive. So instead of saying products, which could be anything, you may say chair rentals or tent rentals. And you want a logical structure. So let me show you some examples of those things. So on here, you'll see very descriptive labels. So instead of products, you have links to exactly what people may be looking for. And so they are descriptive. And then here, this one shows a logical structure. So I can go to the categories and I can see the links down. If I click on tents, I may then go to marquee tents versus pole tents, and then on to specific tent rentals. So make it logical progression. You'll often see the cookie crumbs at the top that says, okay, you were on the main page, then you went to the tent page, then you went to types of tents, and now you're on the 10 by 20 tent page. So make it very logical so they can get back and go where they need to be. The next thing is so important. It's optimizing for mobile navigation. Over 60% of web traffic comes from mobile devices. I think it's probably higher because all this data we get is always like a year or two behind. So it's probably increasing even more to mobile. So if your site isn't mobile friendly, you're losing 60% of potential revenue. So specific things that you'll see on mobile are hamburger menus. They look like these little 3 lines, and that lets people, I'm sure you've seen these many times. That lets people know that that's a drop-down menu bar. You need touch-friendly design, and you need a search bar that is mobile friendly. So let's look at those. Here on this example, you see that our little 3 hamburger menu drops down and shows all the categories. We have a search menu here, and all the buttons on this page, like sign in or sign up, are touch friendly. So Google is now, because most of the traffic is mobile, they are prioritizing mobile friendly sites in search rankings. So whether or not your site is mobile friendly definitely impacts your SEO scores. Let's see what we have next. I lost my cursor. There it is. Okay, next up, this is talking about UX best practices. UX is user experience. So you want to make your website easy and enjoyable to use. So some of those best practices we've already touched on, and Raleigh's going to get into these even more, but page speed is really important. I put a link on here where you can go and put your website in, and it'll tell you your page speed and what you need to work on. Readability, using simple fonts, short paragraphs, people don't like to read these days, and high contrast. So let me talk about high contrast for a minute. Have you ever been to a site that has like purple writing on a pink background? and it's very hard to read. Google does not like that. It's not a good user experience for people. So this link that I put to test your contrast will tell you whether or not the difference in the contrast between the words and the background is sufficient for people to read. So, a lot of times you're designing based on what looks good, what you think looks good, or your design appeal, but this allows you to design for the masses and not just you personally. There's actually a large percent of people that are colorblind, and they depend on that color contrast in order to be able to read and do what you want them to do on your site. Again, this is all about getting people to take that action that you want them to take. The next is minimizing friction. I said here during checkout, but really, I mean, during the process that they take, the action that you want them to take. So if it is checking out and actually giving credit card information, you want that to be really simple. If it's a form, contact us form, you want that to autofill with their email address and phone number. If it's a wish list, you want putting things in the cart or submitting the cart to be very simple. If it's calling you, you want your phone number everywhere. Please call us, text us. So just minimizing the friction or the process that you have to take to do that action that you want them to take. Now, we did a whole other webinar on search engine optimization, which I will share with you in the links that we send out. So I'm not going to get into as much detail here, but your design definitely impacts your SEO. So you need to use keywords and headings and descriptive title tags and meta descriptions. So a lot of times when you're designing your website, you'll come up with formulas for how these things are pulled. So for example, if you have a product page that's like chair rentals, your title tag may be chair rentals in Austin, Texas. And that tells it may default to what the product name is in Austin, Texas, or whatever you think it should be. But when you're designing the site, it's important to consider the title tag, all the metadata, because that's how Google reads your site and determines what it's about and when to show it. So I'm going to turn it over to Raleigh now, and she's going to talk more about the technical and how to do these things.
Thank you, Candice. Thank you for the great overview. So as Candice has hinted a couple of times, beautiful web design is not the end all be all, because it doesn't necessarily mean a good user experience or likeliness from Google. In 2020, Google introduced the term Core Web Vitals. In simple terms, that is a scorecard for how well your website performs. And on the screen, you can see the three main metrics, which Google pays attention to